If someone says that he will empower you right away and thereby cause you to be in thorough correspondence with your original nature, that's nothing but the words of a deceiver, a demonic person, to enable living beings to see their original nature and become Buddhas. The Buddha taught Prajna for 22 years. Of course, the Dharma in the supreme and unsurpassable Mahamudra of liberation is different and on an unsurpassed level. But let's get back to the main topic here. Generally speaking, in the Chan school, one is first required to attain awakening. Only after awakening to the truth can you speak of striving to see it. It can be called jhana only when you see the truth and abide in the Buddha nature of true emptiness, that is imperturbable thusness. Upon entering jhana, you generate the effects of contemplative illumination prajna. Then one's jhana power to exhaustively observe grows more and more. And by calming the mind, the consciousness, the mind consciousness, one completely empties the mind consciousness. Now, the reason why I want to read this is because I want you to gradually understand the difference between discussion, between thinking, and between entering a state of contemplative illumination prajna. They're very different things. By calming the mind consciousness, which is the opposite of what? Thinking, yes. One completely empties the mind consciousness. And only after the manas and alaya consciousnesses are completely empty can one enter into the correct wisdom of prajna. So this is a key element that we have to keep in mind. I had a long talk with Zazi, I think yesterday. Yesterday was a great day. I was 100% yesterday, or maybe I used up 50% of today yesterday. But we were talking about something, and she keeps things really close, to her chest. She doesn't really have opinions about anything. Mostly it's, I don't know, if you come up to a conclusion about something, and it's not because she pushed you towards in that direction, which is something that I deeply admire about her. If you don't know, you ain't gonna hear it from her. You just have to keep chewing on it until you come, to some conclusion, until you throw out what you think or what you thought, and until you just let it go. When you let it go, then some clarity starts to emerge around these deep questions that we have. But when that answer comes in that way, we know we didn't think it up. We didn't know that, and there is a kind of not reliance, but a kind of an assurance that comes with it, that I'm just not making it the way I want it to be, or even the way I think it should be. There is some power in it to persuade me, separate and apart from anything that I could add to it to make it agree more with the way I see and hold things. In other words, it allows us to ask the deep question: is this really true? Or because I desire truth in the inward parts. That's all I want. I don't. The truth doesn't have to agree with me. I want to know the truth. and I want to agree with it. That's what my whole search is about. I want to know the truth, and so it allows me to uh, have the confidence that the truth can be known, and if it can be known, then I can know it. And sometimes the truth agrees with what I thought. Sometimes it doesn't in any sense, shape, form, or fashion. But there is something that becomes the truth for me above my protests and beyond my familiarities. And that I ceases to be and becomes replaced by, there's a transformation, there's another I at a different stage of experience, at a different level of knowing. So one begins with doctrine. That's what the Chan school requires. However, it emphasizes the attainment of awakening. Beginning with doctrine, through examining and analyzing, one gradually understands that doctrine and uses it to reach some awakening. So all of you should be careful. Some patriarch masters regard the eighth consciousness, the Alaya consciousness, as Buddha nature. This view is problematic. Now, the approach in the Dharma characteristic school is different. In the Dharma characteristics consciousness only school, they tell you from the perspective of theory what this is all about and what that is all about. For example, the mind consciousness of humans is classified into a number of types, how each type of mind consciousness changes, where your body came from, what the relationship is between the mind consciousness and the external insentient world, what the actual existence of direct verification is according to Hetavidya, and what the true emptiness of Buddha nature is. They inform you of the truth through reasoning expressed in language, enabling you to understand the truth based on reasoning. You then cultivate yourself to inspect and illuminate your own state of realization. The Pure Land School simply does not tell you about whether you have to illuminate your mind or whether you have to see your original nature. It's good enough if you just earnestly chant Amitabha Buddha and abide by the precepts well. You should know that silently chanting the name of Amitabha Buddha is to concentrate your mind. If you can chant the name Amitabha Buddha well, if you chant it with a totally undistracted mind, Amitabha Buddha will come to receive you at your death. There is only this one sincere and respectful wish. That is, you can calm your mind and earnestly chant the name of Amitabha Buddha. However, this practice has a drawback. What is its drawback? It involves desire-based attachment. You desire and are attached to Amitabha Buddha coming to receive you. If you chant to a certain degree, Amitabha Buddha will indeed come to receive you. Nonetheless, this is, after all, deep entrance into the state of an illusory city, which is not high unless you ascend to the upper grades of the upper class of the Pure Land. Several days I talked of the three ranks, among them the Western world of ultimate bliss can only be regarded as the middle rank, and it's just one of 10 trillion glorious pure Buddha lands. There is also the Sambhogakaya Buddha land, which is at an even higher rank. The Sambhogakaya Buddha land is not a land where holy beings such as those who are at middle grade of the middle class of the Western world of ultimate bliss can go. Those who at middle grade of the middle class do not have the cultivated power or the ability to go there. Those who are not beings of great holiness and virtue cannot even go to the heaven of the most rarefied form. They do not have the ability to go there. At this point, you disciples may be thinking, my master has spoken a long time on Buddha Dharma. Is his teaching going backwards now? What is this? Since they are holy ones, how can they still have a body to go somewhere? This is a very profound question, and I don't want to speak more about it at this time. However, I do want to remind you that Buddha Dharma does not tell you to realize an emptiness where there is nothing whatsoever. That would be totally meaningless, entailing a state of stillness and extinguishment as that of a cobblestone or a tile, floor tile lying on the ground. This is not the intended meaning. Realizing emptiness means a kind of enjoyment of great limitless bliss and competence in all aspects. Thus, in emptiness, there still is the essence and function of ultimate bliss. And once you realize a certain level of cultivated power, you will know this. Think about it. If there were no enjoyment whatsoever, if there were only emptiness that's devoid of all things, why would one cultivate? I will return to the subject of the Pure Land, the state of the Pure Land. Chanting the Buddha's name is for concentrating the mind. When the mind is concentrated, such that all stray thoughts are gone, there is only Buddha in the mind. And so this gives me even as a practicing, not even as if it's something wrong, but I don't mean that at all. But what I want to say is that I'm having clarity about things that I experienced as I went through different I'm understanding more of what my experiences mean. Sometimes you have the experience and then you have to unpack it. Sometimes you learn something and then you have the experience. So a lot of my spiritual journey in this life was the experiences are just being unpacked for me now, even though I had a certain assurance about whatever that was at whatever level that was. And of course, every level I thought was the highest level, including this one. Um, and but maybe not understanding it, but knowing that the experience is true. And I would always say, even as a Buddhist, I'm striving for Buddhahood, whatever that is. And even if I don't uh, make it to a Buddha land, one thing I know, I will make it to a Christian heaven. That's for sure. That I have the assurance of. And I don't know exactly where all that fits in the hierarchy, but assurance is a funny kind of animal. Assurance leaves absolute no question in your mind concerning your attainment, concerning what you do know, whether you can articulate it in a way that others understand. There is the perfect assurance, what state you are in, whether there's states beyond that or not, you may not know. Or I could say you don't know, but what state you are at, and most people don't even know what state they're in. Their confusion is so great. But assurance is like a marker or an indicator, and you know definitely where you are. You know definitely that there is no falling back. You can't unknow this. You just can't unknow it. And so that was the one confidence that I had, and why I think it's wonderful, you know, that whatever state you're in, to have full confidence and give full attention to that. Don't be reaching for something else, you know, uh, as a fail safe, or as a step off from what you struggling in your confusion to understand. You got to go through this. You have to untangle and untie this knot. But once you have untied this knot, it automatically propels you into the next stage of your development, or the next state. There's no way to leap into another state. You have to surmount the state that you're at, and so one should not be um, dismayed when they are feeling stuck. It's kind of like having a blindfold on and say, "Well, I'm just confident. I'm gonna just put one step in front of the other until I get there." But you're standing on the edge of a cliff, you know, and one more step, there is nothing there, and there is the tumble. So one should not strive to step beyond what one has penetrated, what one can actually see. And that's what gets us into a lot of trouble, because, like, I don't get this, okay, forget this, let's go on to the next thing. And we go to the next thing, but we have not penetrated the truth of what we need to penetrate to be able to land solidly on the next step. So when I used to be very frustrated when there was something I just couldn't understand, and like I'm grappling with something right now, I just can't understand. I can't understand. I said, like, I don't have a clue as to where to go with this. No, because I so don't understand it. But if there is something to be understood, I need to understand it to take the next step. So right now, there's nowhere for me to go. Yeah. So just take a little hiatus on that. I already put the question out there. And I'll just wait. That boomerang, a question is like a boomerang. Toss it out, he gathers information, brings it back to you. So I'm just waiting for the boomerang to come back. And that's all I can do. One day out of the clear blue, when I'm not even thinking about it, what I know is that the answer is going to present itself, because I honestly want to know it. Um, and I tell you, for me to even think any more about it at this time would be to be going in a decidedly wrong direction, because it goes so against everything that I believe and understand to this point. No, it's so I can't even tell you what this one is. That's how much against the grain it goes for me. I can't tell you. But it is a true question, that arose. And it's like big gulp. It's going to take a lot to swallow this. And obviously I'm just not ready, because I don't see a path leading to the clarity around this question. And so all I can do is wait for the boomerang. I posted. There's nowhere I can go to search it. You know, it's not one of those kinds of questions that you can like just Google, or look up in the dictionary the meaning of, or encyclopedia. It's not that kind of question. And but I have the confidence based on uh, how I have come to know things. I have confidence that the untangling of that will is a will be available to me when I meet the conditions to be able to to understand it. So in this way, we can be content in every day. We can be content in wherever we are. And the discontent comes actually, it's the ego business, you know. Like I should know, I should understand, or I should know. It's just ego business. And what have we to do with that? You bit by bit, you will start to see how when true answers come to you, it's only because the aggregates could not rise to act. The aggregates could not jump in with the I see, I know. The aggregates, it's like they're trying to leap up and look over the wall to see what's there, but it's just not possible. And there's a kind of a peace and a kind of security and a kind of sense of safety that comes with this. And we enter into a different kind of striving that's not based on grasping, but it's a kind of striving that's based on the confidence that when it's the most opportune time, the most useful time to get the answer, the time that when you get the answer, that the answer will make sense and that you can utilize it. It's having that kind of confidence. Then that clarity will be there for you, because it's like you stand at the door and you knock, you know. It is something that requires so little of our own ingenuity. It only requires a kind of patient persistence. Patient persistence. When the mind is concentrated. So when I'm reading about Pure Land and chanting the Buddha's name, is for concentrating the mind. And I think about someone maybe who had never come through the gate of Christianity, but they came through the gate of Pure Land. No, I remember, what's her name? Suchness. And Suchness. The Vietnamese. No. And Suchness decided to go back to the Pure Land school. She says, what I know, she says, I don't know much about this. It's hard for me to learn that. It's hard, all I know is that all day long, Amitabha's name is on my heart. And when I just think of Amitabha, I'm at such a place of peace and contentment. And so 5 years later, she left and she went to Zen practice with Thich Nhat Hanh. And then she came to Hartwood for, I think, 3 years. And then she said, I'm going back to Pure Land because that's what brings me peace. And she said, all of this time, I have never forgotten Pure Land. I've never given up Pure Land. So she said, on the outside, I'm this or I'm that. But inside, for me, really, it's just about Pure Land. And that's what she did. And less than 6 months later, she had disrobed. I tried to convince her not to go. She says, I don't have the capacity to understand these things. I said, you do have the capacity. I said, even if you died tomorrow and you made the appearance in Amitabha's Pure Land School, this is what you have to study. This is what you have to learn. I mean, he tells us frankly, he takes you to Pure Land School so that you can continue. So who knows I mean, you have the opportunity, the affinity, the opportunity to get it now, you know. And so I talked about this, and so I'm not going to read the whole Pure Land thing today because I read it at the last class. But I like to go on from there. At this point in my discourse, I'm talking about the usefulness of the Pure Land School. You may say, the master's use of the Heart Sutra to impart the absolute truth is so troublesome. In the exposition, the master has once more explained to us some principles on the Buddha Dharma and is now getting into other schools and other sects. I will tell all of you this. This master of yours, think that although my level is low and I'm about the same as you all, I still have things that you need to learn after all. Otherwise, I would not impart Dharma to you. Speaking of other sects and schools has its marvelous purpose in the exposition of this Dharma. Disciples, listen to me. You absolutely must not think that since my level is not much different from yours, the Dharma that I impart is not the truth. I want to remind you of something. What I have imparted in this exposition called Expounding the Absolute Truth in the Heart Sutra already amounts to 200,000 Chinese characters. And although there is still about a half that I have not yet imparted, you can now infer how much different my level is than yours. I've already decided that when this book is published in the future, that was 20 years ago, I will, with my sincere and touched heart and conduct, invoke Buddhas to arrive in the sky and bestow upon us genuine holy Amrita from a Buddha land to bless this book and to bring living beings the fruit of leaving suffering, of attaining of happiness, and ultimately realizing enlightenment. My level is not much different from yours. How much different is it from yours after all? This is for you to comprehend gradually. This is something I'm clear about. What is the reason for taking this approach in imparting Dharma? As I impart the truth of prajna, I want to cause all of you to learn a little more knowledge about Buddha Dharma and perfect your understanding of the absolute truth of the Heart Sutra. This is because all dharmas ultimately lead to prajna, all dharmas. The truth in this is very profound. So before I continue imparting these dharmas, I would definitely still talk about some other matters, just generally relating to all aspects of Buddha Dharma. Ultimately, what is the goal of chanting in Pure Land School? It is about the use of thoughts. After all, thoughts are reduced to one thought. You will understand the truth of emptiness in that process. Only after understanding the truth of emptiness can you awaken to your own original appearance, the Dharmakaya that is not born and that does not perish. What are some of the things that the Way On School does? While we're on the subject of schools, we'll now discuss Way On School. The Way On School mainly practices visualizations, 16 visualizations. They practice the Moherji Guan, also related to the Way In School, is the Way In Dharma realm state. You directly enter into the visualization and fix the focus. Step by step, you enter deeper. That does not require you to cease differentiating. Rather, you have to visualize the Buddha by differentiating in a very meticulous and detailed way. And eventually, you end at complete quiescence in a state of emptiness. You use existence to take in emptiness. Using this method enables you to realize Buddha nature. There's so many Dharma methods to practice observation, contemplation, or visualization. Hinayana also has its observation practices, such as samatha, vipassana, and breath count. Its wonderful effects are realized by directing one's effort towards one's thought and one's breath. As one's thought and breath merge into oneness, one clearly observes one's inhalations and exhalations. Through stabilization, one attains observation or insight. Observation then strengthens the stabilization. Thoughts end at the nostril. One's focus does not move away from the nostril. As one follows the breath with clarity, the observance is very clear. One's thoughts are not scattered. One does not enter into a muddled, drowsy state. Observation and stabilization are then in balance. This is correct, Johnny. If stabilization is without observation, or if in the midst of observation there's no stabilization, then this is a meditational defect. The specific subtleties of this should be explained in further detail, but I will not say more about it at this time. All right. I will not talk about other schools and sects because I can't finish talking about them in a short period of time. There are many good Buddhists who like to hear about esoteric dharma. There are even more idiots and lunatics who are interested in this subject. Therefore, I will now briefly talk about esoteric Buddhism. The situation in esoteric Buddhism is different. There are numerous levels and methods of Dharma practices within esoteric Buddhism. There are practices to directly realize emptiness. There are practices to directly realize the Dharmakaya, the body that is not different from emptiness. There are practices to directly realize the Sambhogakaya and to realize the Nirmanakaya. There are dharmas that one practices together to realize all three bodies, the Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya. However, esoteric dharma is called the mantra school. Why is that? It is because esoteric dharmas are inseparable from chanting mantras. Esoteric dharmas use the power of mantras, plus the learning of theories, and the states of realization from the practice of contemplation, observation, or visualization. One makes use of mantras to expel hindrances stemming from sin. And what is sin?
That which takes us away from our aspiration.
Okay, so we could call that, well, I would call that evil, takes us from our goal, but sin might be considered that which, where we have missed the mark of our goal. So it's a difference it's a subtle difference, but if you can realize the difference, you can redefine some words. So I would think of sin more like I reached for this, but I didn't quite make it. Or I reached for this and I got distracted and I went in that way. So it is going away from your goal, but not with the sense that brings a certain kind of condemnation and judgment. So are you with me? But we have words, and these words are put out there, and the words are being flung around, and we use them, and they've been used with us by people who have ordinary understanding, and so we have to grow up around some things, and that means that we can't hold the same view of things that we held when we had less understanding, unless you just don't have any more understanding now. But if you do have more understanding now, then you're required to step into the understanding you have, not belly aching over how somebody else defines something, but do you have a definition of it for yourself now? Finally, do you, and so, or however it was used or explained in from one point of reference doesn't mean it's from all points of reference. And so a lot of the suffering and the torment and the pain that we bring to ourselves by virtue of us just not changing. Just not changing, just walking in place. And maybe somebody who even used that word has grown beyond its definition, but you're still walking in place. Still walking in place. So when it comes right down to it, we can bring our happiness or attribute our happiness or our unhappiness to ourselves. We can take responsibility for our unhappiness or our unhappiness. We really are in charge of ourselves unless we leave others in charge of us. Later, so we make use of these mantras, mind seals, right, to expel hindrances and enter the state of emptiness. Later in my exposition, I will specifically talk to you about esoteric Buddhism. There are people who do not understand esoteric Buddhism, especially many eminent monks. Many eminent monks of the Tentai school are among them. I'm not repudiating all of the eminent monks. Many eminent monks of the Pure Land school are also among them, as are many eminent monks of the Yunmen school and the Caodong school. Eminent monks of the Wei-Yan school, a little bit better in this regard. I'm speaking of eminent monks now. My words are not directed against ordinary people. They are eminent monks, not venerable holy gurus. Do not lump those two types together. They do not understand esoteric Buddhism very well because they do not know what esoteric Buddhism is. They tend to say, oh, esoteric Buddhism, that's all about mantras. They chant. Or those mantra chanters have come. They describe the esoteric dharma of Tibetan Buddhism in an oversimplified manner. I'll now continue my exposition of the main subject. See, I like how when he's going to clarify something a little later, he kind of sets you up gradually. The clarification is going to come later, but he'll just drop this, and by the way, such and such. But we're not going to talk about that now. And then he goes on what he's talking about, but he's gradually inculcating the mind, gradually. So now you're hearing it without hearing it because we're not discussing it. You're just sort of like hearing it, by the way, and goes on. He's so crafty in a good way. I'm just saying. And so, but I guess you might not be able to say your mind is being inculcated once you understand the modus operandi, right? So now I understand what he's doing. He's helping me to get accustomed to the subject, accustomed to hearing about it, accustomed to hearing things about it, accustomed to it becoming like something that's sort of like ordinary conversation because I don't know what it is yet, but I heard about it 15 times already, and yeah, I know what that is. And before you know it, now we can have a conversation about it because it's no longer like a bad word, a dirty word, a scary word, a topic that's 100% foreign. I just have up in my own mind what it is. I don't have any proofs or anything, but because I haven't learned it, that's a scary thing to me. Or some things I see, like I don't believe it, or some things I hear, like, but he just brings like bringing a stranger home and gradually, it's like how I would try to introduce my family to my boyfriends. then I like just just bring them up like, wow, here he is, like walk me home from school, but you can't come in, You just see ya, and they see us wave, all nice, sweet, and and then after a while they use, oh, that boy walks out home from school every day, and they're observing to see if he's touching me or or when I come in, like I immediately turn my attention, to my mother or something like that. So she's looking for the far away look in my eyes, she's trying to decide whether she needs to have, whether my father needs to have the talk, things like that. And then, it's just, oh, he just lives right down the street. Actually he lives across town, but he just lives over that way, not far. So now he's in our neighborhood, and just gradually, all the games that we play them all out. Like we're a master at strumming the strings. We all are. We all are. We have to admit it, you know? And that's why Buddha talks so much about being radically honest with ourselves. I don't tell you everything, but I sure need to be radically honest with myself to know my own nature. If I don't know and don't uproot anything. It just all stays there. And like I see you next life, and I see you next life, because we don't uproot anything. We just get some concepts in our head and we blah, 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 blah about them and live and die, And so, so this is about shortening the fuse so that can really have the courage to examine some things and have the joy of realizing some things, that and after a while you start, it's not even hardly anything I need to realize for forward knowing. There is a place that one can come to where in the moment, the thing that one needs to know, one can just, it's spontaneous awareness, spontaneous knowing. They know that. They didn't have to prep for it. They didn't have to study for it. They didn't have to do the grilling. It's that you spontaneously know, I know what that is. And that is the true development of what we might call spirituality, but that's not all of those theories and doctrines, however good they are, or however useful they are still not the thing. And so you come closer in this way of continual practice, you come closer and closer to the real thing. So he says, so the two noble truths of suffering and accumulation. Here I'm talking, now he's talking about the first, two truths of the Four Noble Truths, the truth of suffering, and the accumulation is that suffering has a cause. There are reasons for it. I'm talking about here correspond to the process of transmigration, as laid out in the 12 links of conditioned origination. So now he's talking about suffering and the truth of suffering. He's connecting them with the 12 links of dependent origination. So like in real life, we don't really have a doctrine or a theory of the Four Noble Truths. That's a topic. And then a topic here of dependent origination. That's another topic. So what are we talking about today? Are we talking about the Four Noble Truths? Are we talking about dependent origination? That's just talk. That's just blah, blah. That's talk. And we're trying to categorize and put things into a certain place, but we don't walk through the day's life experiences from the perspective of the Four Noble Truths or dependent origination. We're walking through the trials of the day's life experiences. And so we have to have a real way, a true way of engaging minute by minute with whatever is arising minute by minute, as opposed to trying to fit them into a doctrinal perspective. Do you understand what I mean? So I love this idea of getting away from topical understanding, because life does not unfold topically, you know. And that's why, when I was in investment banking, I loved professors because they didn't have like well, the ones I came to know, they made a lot of money, but they didn't have a financial intelligent bone in their body. They were like just so stuck on theory and so forth. They didn't know anything about finance. So I could do the least little bit and make them money, and they'd be so happy. I didn't have to work really hard. I didn't have to have banker slip with them, because so I could do less banker like things that made my conscience feel a little better, because it didn't take much to please them. They would be happy for an investment that gave them like a 6% return. But I had some who wanted 30% return. So that's a lot riskier. And so I had to vect out into some deep waters to do some of those things. But if they had it's their money, if they got the strength to go with it, I'm going with it. But it was like working with two different people, like working with a rabbit and with a tiger, you know. And so I liked professors because I didn't have to be so looking for a good word here. Aggressive? Yeah, let's go with that one. Didn't have to be so aggressive. So my conscience felt better. But the other thing about the aggression is the aggression brought greed, because you really could do these kinds of deals. I did a lot of offshore stuff. We have different rules of the game, rules of engagement, different laws, and I told you all that somebody uh, was introduced to me to buy hardwood, and and they were representing some unknown buyers, but we'd have to do the deal offshore. And then the money would have to be deposited into a Switzerland bank and then transferred here. And I couldn't know who the buyers were. And I was thinking about it, but then my mind went back to the old days, and I was like, I think, and this was right during the time when they were confiscating Russian assets. And so I just knew, that these were Russian oligarchs, and they were trying to dump their money into real estate holdings in the United States. Oh, lucky for me then, I can just take advantage of this. But this was about Buddha work, I said, my ship has come in, and I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it. I said, I'm not even telling anybody. You just do it and it's done. I understand these things. And then, but from where I was today, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And so, but they called me several times too. I mean, more than several times. And they sent me things, and, by wire. I got to sign all of these things, like I won't discuss this. I won't tell anybody. So I called the lawyer and I asked him, I said, now, what do you think about it? He said, I think the window is closed for this transaction. He says, I think if you do this, that we're too far into confiscating Russian assets now. If you'd done it a month ago or 2 months ago, before we took as drastic measures as we're taking in the United States, you would have been home free. He said, but you don't even have time to research the legalities now. You don't have time. So I said, fine, and that was it. Didn't think any more about it. And so that means that there's still seeds, right? There's seeds. There's seeds here. And so I have to have the wisdom when they come up. That's where the choices come in. That's where the continual practice comes in, you know. And it doesn't matter if it's greed for a good purpose or not a good purpose. No, it doesn't matter. So seeds sprouting. And so I said, oh, well, that won't determine whether hardwood goes forward or not. That's the culmination of my past. Whatever I have in my hand today is the culmination of my past. It does not determine my future. It's just the culmination of my past, you know? And when one gets that kind of mind, then one can accept gain or loss, you know? And so that's the difference. So somebody can be going through a lot of anguish over losing something. You just know you have a lot of seeds there, and you got to deal with them now or in the future. You got to deal with them. And so if you're scared to even look at it, then you're not going to deal with it. And when you see it as an opportunity to uproot, because whatever you have in this life, you can't take none of it with you, you know, then you know that your vision is shifting in a certain way, and that those seeds will not come to fruition. Why? Because you won't water them. And that's where prajna comes in to your life, and why we need prajna over the voice of our experience. That's why we need prajna, because prajna shines the light on things and helps us, you know, to solve our problems, and whatever problems we can't personally solve, then we can be with them. And in this way, we grow stronger and stronger, so that we have no fear of anything, and that we fear no man. I got a call the other day and said a Rinpoche was asking questions about me. And they said something, and they wanted to know, was that true? And I'm saying, well, to the person who asked me, who relayed this story, I said, she says, anything I should know, is everything okay? I said, what you should do, what you should have done, or what you can do, is you can tell that Rinpoche if she has a question, she can contact me directly, because I don't fear any man. I said, now I'm scared of Buddha Master. I'm scared of the holy gurus. I'm scared of the Dharma protectors. I'm scared of the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. If they're not one of them, I'm not afraid. And they can just ask me what they want to ask me. And I said, but now, if she wants to offer me some advice that'll help me to be better at my goal, then I'm all ears for that. But, and that's how I dealt with that. So we'll see. I'll either get a phone call or I won't. But I'm pretty sure that I won't, because I don't even think the person's going to tell them that, you know. And I won't be upset with it. They can just ask, they can just ask me. What is meant by living beings whose differences arise through causal conditions? Living beings are born in accord with phenomena arising through causes and conditions. That's a mouthful. Living beings are born in accord with phenomena arising through causes and conditions. Following karmic forces, they are born. Because phenomena arise through causes and conditions, each of them is different. And each of us are at different levels of different heights. That is what is meant by differences that arise. That is what is meant by differences that arise through causal conditions. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that paragraph. What is meant by living beings whose differences arise through causal conditions? Living beings are born in accord with phenomena arising through causes and conditions. Following karmic forces, they are born. Because phenomena arise through causes and conditions, each of us, is different. And we are at levels of different heights. Mm-hmm. That is what is meant by differences that arise through causal conditions. Differences that arise through causal conditions are all related to diluted consciousness. They do not independently arise. It is impossible for those differences to directly arise through causal conditions not related to diluted consciousness. So the only way that we appear in this type of illusory reality is due to diluted consciousness. Okay, so here Panwadi is like it's not my fault. I'm the product of the baker baked the cake and I'm the cake. You know, so whether I'm a lopsided cake, fallen cake, a beautiful cake, this Panwadi has arisen or come together through diluted consciousness. Today, I will reveal to you an example of certain phenomena that occurred right here relating to differences arising through causal conditions. When we began this session of the Dharma Discourse today, 2 female disciples were in charge of audio recording. Because the first one completed her own preparation work for the recording, her mind was calm. The mind of the second disciple was also rather calm. However, since she only looked at what was before her eyes, she did not see that the other end of the wire had not yet been connected to the power outlet. As a result, my Dharma discourse began to plant the causes, but she did not receive its fruit. The first disciple did receive the fruit. Why did she receive the fruit? It is because the seeds that she planted were perfect and accorded with the principles of following common conditions. That is, she completed all of the specific tasks in the process. However, the second disciple had one piece missing. And as a result, I began imparting Dharma, but because the recorder was not connected to the electric power, the tape did not move. Moreover, while it was not moving, she even appeared composed and unruffled because she did not check. She was motionless there and unperturbed. She did not promptly report the matter, thus she did not receive the fruits of the Dharma discourse. Why did she not report the matter? This was caused by her own deluded consciousness. First, she was terrified. She was in fear. She feared that if she reported the matter, I would immediately scold her. Second, she hoped to quickly find the problem and see if she could fix it, hoping to hide the matter and be through with it. Finally, since she had no other choice and started to panic, only then did she quickly report the matter. This is a manifestation of self-attachment. The arising of the manifestation of self-attachment brings with it a blemish upon one's karmic conditions. So having given that example, here I tell you that in everything you do, you must be cautious and act in accord with the rules of the Dharma. Only then can there be the arising of perfectly corresponding conditions. Therefore, among living beings, causal conditions produce differences. Such differences of each living being are of myriad types and countless variations. There are great differences among them all, and all have their own shortcomings. So now he's taking us somewhere, and I'm going to end in 4 minutes. And he's taking us somewhere. So there's been the direct pointing, really fervent. There's been the scolding that you absolutely can't make progress if you do this or if you do that. And then it starts lighting up, but you know, like you're not going to be able to help doing this and do that because you are born into a deluded consciousness. You know, so right a minute ago I was saying there's no hope, there's no answer, there's no way of escape, there's no, you know, and now he's like, oh, that's because you don't understand the whole thing, you know, because right now I'm talking about suffering and the truth of suffering. Pretty soon, once I untie this knot, you'll see that there is no suffering, you know. But you won't see that there's no suffering just because I say there's no suffering. I have to unpack the whole thing. And so we'll get from the Four Noble Truths to no Four Noble Truth, and from dependent origination to no dependent origination. And this has to be done gradually, step by step, allowing you to walk up to the top of the mountain, but then once you get there, you come down the other side. So we're walking up the rough side. I used to sing that song all the time. I'm climbing up the rough side of the mountain, doing my best to make it home, you know, climbing up the rough side of the mountain to really get a good view of this mind, this erroneous mind, and this illusory existence. And once we've seen it, glimpsed it, then our journey becomes entirely different. You know, and so that's my encouragement to you today, that what appears to be such troublesome teaching and points of view and indicators just has to do with the state of our minds. But as we keep walking in this way and we find that expansiveness, I cannot tell you how just having just one little experience that's not tied to anything can change your perspective of everything. You know, I'm no longer thinking in terms of out there at all, just from having one little experience while I was sick of the bardo ceasing to be some place out there that I go to, because that vastness that was out there that I had experienced before suddenly came in here, and there was nowhere, there was no out. There was no out, no place to go out. It came in here. And for some seconds, experienced something I have not finished unpacking at all, but I can't deny the experience of it just because can't unpack it all. You know, I still had it, you know, but there's a difference in vastness out there and perceiving a vastness in here. So when we come back, I'm going to read the section on fragmentary death. And he says we should stop being so selfish that when we think about death, we think about we die, you know, and he talks about all of the other beings in the body that die and how they're dying all the time so that we can keep on living and all of these things. And all you think about is you dying when there's a kabillion beings that have been dying so that you could live, you know, and that when you do billions that die along with you. It's just one of you, but it's billions that die along with you. But our thinking is so constricted and so narrow that we have a kind of self-centeredness that boggles the mind. The mind can't even fathom how narrow and constricted our thoughts are. Once you start to break through, and what does it take to break through these constraints? It takes something that shuts down that mind. And that's what these teachings do. They shut down that mind, and one breaks beyond the limitations of ordinary consciousness. And I do feel much better.
I know, it's obvious.
Thank you. So if anybody has anything they want to say or share, please feel free. And if not, if somebody will offer. Dedication of Mary. It's good to see you, Nancy. You've been really on my mind. And you look good too. Ain't nothing better than being out a long time and be stepping back in. Be like you when I grow up.
Excited.
Yeah.
May the merit of our effort to come and commitment to come and listen to Dharma today, any merit gained by that, be offered to all beings everywhere that they might encounter the Dharma, find true freedom. May all be well.
So you will get an email from me. I have to wait until there's somebody who can work the equipment. But Lucida will be back in shortly, and Kadar, you don't know how to
Do what?
send mass emails and stuff like that.
To these guys, I
You can. Well, I want this to go to everybody though. This is regarding the Golden Light Sutra for World Peace. And I talked last week about it. This is anybody who wants peace in the world should read the Golden Light Sutra. It's a very important practice to stop violence and war in the world. The Golden Light Sutra is one of the most beneficial ways to bring peace. This is something that everyone can do, no matter how busy you are. And even if you can read one page a day or a few lines in this way, continually read the Golden Light Sutra. And I think about 8 of us have already started reading it. But what came to my mind is, for any, we all want world peace. We all, but when he talks about practicing continually, we want world peace, but we don't want to practice world peace. So if we say with our lips, with our mouths, oh, I wish for world peace, why can't we all get along? Or we say words, or why can't we relate to one another and think kindly upon one another? And we ask that question, and then we go on about our business. But how many of us devote time to turning the mind towards thoughts of world peace? And so I would like for this coming year, because we need it so badly, to start to do something that is more than, well, we have a lot of lip service, but redirecting some of our lip service from just wanting or wishing for world peace to actually uttering the aspiration and building the aspiration in our heart for world peace. So the Lama Zopa said that for anyone who desires peace for themselves and for others, this is the spiritual Dharma way to bring peace that doesn't require you to harm others. It doesn't require you to criticize others or to demonstrate, even to demonstrate against others. Yet it has its accomplishments. It's a dharma asking for or aspiring for protection of individuals and the country from where they are labeled from natural disasters of the wind element, fire element, earth element, and water element, such as earthquakes, floods, cyclones, fires, tornadoes. They are not natural. We call them natural disasters, but they are not natural because they come from causes and conditions that make dangers happen. They come from past inner negative thoughts and actions of people and from external conditions. Reciting this sutra directs one's life towards enlightenment. Everything is taken care of, one's life becomes easy because whatever one wishes for, one receives. This is because there is unbelievable purification and one collects extensive merits. This is how one liberates numberless sentient beings from the oceans of samsaric suffering and brings them to enlightened mind. So please recite the Sutra of Golden Light for world peace. Together in groups as you can, but as often and as much as you can. Shift your mind towards this great aspiration of peace for the world. And so we'll be sending out the sutra so you can download it if you have, like I have a thing on my computer that reads things to me. And yeah, it's in Google. I think it's Google. What's the name? Put it on mine. But my problem with it is I can't always turn things off and then something's listening. And so, but I'm gonna learn how to use it for this so that I can hear it and recite it at the same time with the hopes of transforming my mind towards a more wholesome moment by moment way of being in the world and looking for relief and release for those that are near and for those that are far. Yeah.